Right, so welcome to our day 2 of the Mapineq Link webinar series, a 3-part lunchtime event designed to introduce the Mapineq Link, a new interactive geospatial tool for visualizing population inequality indicators at the local level. The Mapineq Link is a tool created in the framework of the EU-funded Mapineq project, which means Mapping Inequality Through the Life course. This project is led by Professor Jani Erola at the University of Turku in Finland. Today we'll learn more about how to navigate the platform's dashboard, download the datasets, and examine case studies that align with your interests. For that, we'll have the great honor to welcome Dr. Douglas Leasure, who is a senior researcher and data scientist at the Leverhulme Center for Demographic Science at the University of Oxford. Doug, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Daniela. Let me just share my screen to bring up slides. Can you just confirm that you can see my screen, please?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to start by saying thank you to all of you for coming today, and if you attended yesterday as well, thank you for coming back. So as Daniela said, today I'm going to be talking about the interactive mapping dashboard. That's the tool to explore the Mapineq Link database and look at data on the map. Before I go into that, I just want to start by acknowledging our partners at Geodienst at the University of Groningen, who have been doing the web development work on this dashboard that I'm going to be showing you today. So they've been great partners helping us make this tool work and kind of bringing it all to life. So I wanted to start, this is a slide that I made at the very beginning of this project that sort of laid out the vision for what we wanted to build with this dashboard. And there's a few kind of key things that I want to mention from this statement here. So we want to help users make new discoveries, so that's you, using your own unique perspectives to chart different courses through big data. So what we're trying to do here is build a tool that allows you, with all of your different expertise and focus, to bring those perspectives and easily navigate through this kind of ocean of data that's out there, and do that in a way that's spatial, so you can see these relationships play out on the map, which we think is an important and underutilized component. There's a couple of things that we wanted to keep at the forefront of this. We wanted to allow cross-country comparisons, and we wanted to make sure that we always had the ability to look at subnational variation. So we want to go beyond just national level data and trends and relationships among data. Another important component of this is we want to be bringing together really different types of data. So we're working with traditional indicators from Eurostat and OECD, but we're also trying to bring in some non-traditional data sets that are things derived from, for example, satellite remote sensing or digital trace data of people's use of the internet and things like this. Okay, so when we started building this tool, we had a number of different audiences in mind. And so we wanted to kind of make different entry points for different audiences. And the audiences could range from policymakers to the press, to researchers. And all of these people want to interact with data in different ways. And so we've got these three kind of main pathways to get into the data. The first one is getting inspired through case studies. And so this was the focus of the webinar yesterday, led by Melinda Mills. And here we're trying to have short narratives that highlight important data relationships and communicate those to an audience that doesn't really want to go in depth with the data. The second pathway is exploring this interactive data dashboard, which allows you to choose your own data sets, put them on the map, and importantly, look for relationships between different data sets. So this will be the focus of today's webinar, and I'm going to demonstrate to you how that tool works. And then the third one is an API. API stands for Application Programming Interface. This is a tool meant for data scientists or web developers. So if you wanted to pull data from the Mapineq database and build your own interactive tools to put on your website, or you wanted to pull data straight into your data analysis that you're doing in R or Python, this tool will help you do that. And that'll be the focus of tomorrow's webinar. So the thing I wanted to start with is this first one, so get inspired through case studies. We talked about this a bit yesterday, but I want to dive in a little bit further and show you how the dashboard supports the stories that are being told through these case studies. Okay, so I'm going to go over to the website. And from the website, you can see that there are a number of case studies highlighted. So these are each telling a different story drawn from data that we have in the Mapineq database. And so I just want to bring one of these up just to give you an example. So I'll click on this one, which is looking at the linkage between economic uncertainty and fertility rates. So these case studies, as I said, are designed to be short, to the point, and backed up by data that we have in the Mapineq database. So this case study has a screenshot of the dashboard right in the case study. And what this screenshot is showing you is the linkage between, on the x-axis here, this is showing the portion of employed women who are in temporary employment, and on the y-axis showing fertility rates. These data are at the national level across Europe, and this is kind of the backbone of the story that's being told by this case study. What I want to highlight today is if you wanted to dive into that data relationship a little bit further, you can use the dashboard to do that. So if you just scroll to the bottom of the case study, there's this View Case Study on the Map button. So I'm going to click that button, and that will bring me through to the dashboard, which is now automatically loading the data that we're supporting that case study. So what we see on this scatter plot in the top right is the exact same relationship that I was just showing you from the case study. So this is the share of employed women who are in temporary employment versus fertility rates. And then if I hover over individual countries on the map, you'll see that their data point in the scatter plot is highlighted so that you can really quickly see where countries lie within this bivariate relationship. So for example, we can really quickly see that Spain is the country that has the highest share of employed women who are in temporary employment, and also the country with the lowest fertility rate among those being shown on the map. We can do that in reverse as well. We can hover over individual points in the scatter plot and see them highlighted on the map. So by interacting with a case study through the dashboard in this way, it also gives you the ability to then slightly change the data. So I can come over to the control panel, for example, and let's say I want to look at these employment statistics for a different year. I can just click the drop down to see which years are available. So I'll just click on 2018 as a quick example. And then we can really quickly see that same relationship, but now using the 2018 employment data. So we could look to see how that relationship changes through time, and also how data missingness changes through time. So these countries labeled in white have missing data. And then just quickly, I'm looking at employment statistics here for women of all ages. But if I wanted to to look at specific age groups, I could just unselect that age filter. And then let's say we just want to look at 15 to 24-year-old women. We can select that. And then we can really quickly look at that relationship for that age group. Okay, so what I want to show you here is just illustrating how the dashboard can be used to further explore the data relationships that are being highlighted in the case studies. And then let me just come back now to the website, and then I'll switch back over to my slides. Okay, so next I want to move on to this second box, which is exploring and finding your own interesting data relationships using the database and the dashboard together. So before I kind of demonstrate that bit, I want to say a few words about the different components that are behind this dashboard. So what I was just showing you is the interactive dashboard itself. So it's an interactive web application. Behind it is a database, and as you navigate that dashboard, it's pulling data from that database based on your selections in the dashboard. And the API is the tool that's communicating between the web application and the database. I'll dive into that bit more tomorrow, so I'm going to just leave the API for now. And I want to speak on the characteristics of the database and how do you actually know what data are in there. So this database, it's a relational database with some spatial capabilities built into it. And we are working to integrate inequality indicators and relevant data from a bunch of different sources, and then use the power of location to link those data sources. So what's the value of data source X and Y at this location? The bottom bullet point here, I just want to say a quick word about, we've built the database using this SDMX data format. So this is the statistical data and metadata exchange format. So this is a data format that's being adopted by national statistics offices globally, and also is used by both Eurostat and OECD. So we've built the database around this format to be compatible with those other data providers. And we're currently working to make the API also provide data in this format. So our target is to be compliant with the SDMX data format. So if you're already using that, this will make things smoother for you. Okay, so how do you know what's in this database? The easiest way probably is through our data catalog, which is a tool just built into the website. So I'm going to come back over to the website, and you'll see at the top of the page, there's a data catalog option. So I'm going to click that. The data catalog is essentially just a list of all the data that's in the database. So for each data table or item, it's given a short description. So this one is population by age and sex. It tells you the years for which that data are available. So available years for this one is just 2001. And the geographic levels at which those data have been measured. So this is showing us that this data set is for NUTS level 0, which is country level, but also NUTS level 3, which are these finest subnational administrative units. And this data set is being provided through Eurostat. So there are a lot of different data sets in the database. Probably the most efficient way to find what you're looking for is just to type a search term into the search box at the top of the data catalog. So for example, I could type fertility and would quickly get a list of fertility indicators. I want to show you a bit of a closer look at a causes of death data set. So I'm going to pull that one up. Here we have standardized death rate by NUTS 2 region of residence. This is data from Eurostat. It's available from 2011 to 2021, all the way down to the NUTS level 2. So I'm going to click this Load an Interactive Map button because I want to take a closer look at this specific data set. So when I click that, it's going to read from the database to load that specific data set into the dashboard. When we do this, for some of these data sets, there are additional data options and filters that we need to select to get the data that we're actually looking for. So for this one, I'm just going to pull up, I'm not going to disaggregate these death rates by age and sex, so I'll just select total for sex and total for age. And then to start with, I'm just going to pull up all causes of death. Then I just click this button, Show on the Map, and we'll get these death rates mapped at the NUTS2 level across Europe. We can hover over these individual units and see the cause of, or the death rate data along with the country name and the administrative unit name. We can pretty easily change the year to see how that data looks in different years. So I've just chosen 2020 and then click Show on Map again. And what I want to show you with this data set, I'm just going to deselect this all causes of death. And you'll see that we have a fairly comprehensive list of different causes of death that you can pull from. So let's say your research is looking at dementia, for example. You can just click on dementia, Show on Map, and really quickly get a map of these death rates due to dementia mapped subnationally, where you can explore those relationships. And you'll see that in the legend in the bottom left, it's telling us that darker blue areas have higher death rates due to dementia. And in the top right, you'll see that it's just providing a bit of information about the data that we're currently viewing on the map. Okay, and then if you wanted to just continue searching the data catalog, you could go back and keep looking for additional data that you find interesting for your research or policy applications. Okay, so I'm just going to come back now into my slides, and so that I wanted to show you how to use the data catalog to see what is in the database, but then also to link through to the dashboard so you can put that data on the map and just see its characteristics, its spatial patterns, and things like that. So the next thing I want to show you, I want to dive into this interactive dashboard a bit further. One of the things that we really want to do with this dashboard is allow you to look not just at single data sets, but to explore relationships between two data sets. And we want you to be able to make your own discoveries using that tool by searching through these kind of data relationships in this way. So I'm going to just walk through an example of how you would do that. So back on the home page at the top, you'll see a button that says Interactive Map. I'm going to click that. And what this does is it just loads the dashboard with no data loaded. So it's up to you to then explore data sets and find them for yourselves. So the idea here is you can select one or two variables, put them on the map, either by themselves or in a bivariate plot. So you're able to explore relationships between these data sets. The first step is you need to choose the geographic level at which you want to search the database. And again, these are ranging from NUTS level 0, country level, all the way to NUTS level 3, which are these smallest administrative units. So for this example, I'm just going to choose NUTS level 2 base regions. And what we see right away is that there are 162 tables in the Mapineq database with data at this geographic level. So I'm going to click on this drop down, and I really want to show you some data on internet speeds. So I'm just going to type into this box, internet, and we'll see that there are two tables in the database with data related to internet usage. I want to show you this internet speed by Ookla dataset. So Ookla is a service that allows people to test their internet speed, so upload and download speeds from their home computer or work computer or your mobile phone. So we've loaded data from those internet speed tests into the Mapineq database. I've now selected it. You'll see that there, again, are some data options and filters that we can choose from. So we can select a year of data. So I'm just going to choose 2019 for this example. I'm interested in mobile internet speeds. So I'm going to choose mobile network type and download speeds rather than upload speeds. So now that I've fully specified that variable, I can just click this button, show only predictor on the map. And that's going to bring up these internet speeds as measured by Ookla. This is at the NUTS level 2. Again, we have darker regions are the ones with the fastest internet speeds. And so now that we've got that one variable loaded into the map, we can, as we did before, we can hover over subnational units, see their values for internet speed. And if there were any, we would see regions with missing data mapped as white. So now I'm just going to bring back the control panel. And what I want to do now is select a second variable to compare to that one. So in the second column of the control panel, what I want to show you is youth unemployment data. I'm just going to type in youth unemployment. I'm interested in looking at the relationship between mobile broadband speeds and youth unemployment. So I'm just going to choose this youth unemployment rate by age and sex. I'm just going to look at total unemployment rates rather than disaggregate by sex for this example. And then for age, I'm going to choose the 15 to 24-year-old age group. So when we make that selection, this bivariate relationship is right away plotted on the map. So what we see here, I'm just going to walk you through this legend quickly. In the bottom left, you'll see that red values are locations that have the fastest internet speeds and the lowest youth unemployment rates, whereas blue are the slowest internet speeds and the highest youth unemployment rates. We can look at that relationship in the scatter plot. We see that there's a negative relationship. We can hover over individual points and have those regions highlighted on the map. We can do the same on the map, so we can see these regions of the Netherlands have fast internet speeds and low youth unemployment, whereas these regions in Italy have slower internet speeds and higher youth unemployment rates. Okay, I'm going to bring the control panel back up. I hope you can see that this kind of gives us a quick way to explore these data relationships. If I wanted to look at data for a different year, I could just come back over to the control panel and choose a different year. I'll just quickly choose 2022 to have a look. And I think we're getting a lag in the filter. If you wanted to now explore this data yourself and base an analysis on this, the next step would be you can just click at the bottom this download mapped data as CSV. So I'm gonna, oh, the lag just caught up. Apologies for that. So I'm gonna wait and let this just catch up. I've just made a couple of selections and it's still pulling data from the database. So what I want to do now is download this data as a CSV format. So I'm just going to click this button at the bottom, download mapped data as CSV. This is going to download a file to our computer. I'm going to try to open this real quick so I can just show you this data format. Okay, so I hope you can see this now. This is the downloaded data, and what it's showing us has a column for year, a column for geographic identifier. These are just the NUTS region IDs and names. And then these two columns are the internet speeds and youth unemployment data. And these are the data corresponding to the options and filters that we selected in the control panel. Okay, so I'm just going to come back now into my slides. And I want to give you a few words here about kind of where we're headed with this. I hope you've seen through these examples that I've given you how the dashboard can be used to support these case studies, to explore data through the data catalog, and then to look for your own sort of bivariate relationships by putting multiple variables on the map at the same time. So what we're doing next is we want to roll this tool out to beta testers, so people like you and the public more widely. So we're really interested in hearing back from you how this works for you and data sets and features that you might be particularly interested in us working on in the future. What I've shown you is an alpha version of this tool. So we're definitely very much still in the development phase of this. There are some bugs that we're still working out. Working to streamline the dashboard controls to try to make it as easy and accessible as possible. I think we will always be working to expand the database, bringing in new data from diverse sources. We're already pulling in bulk from both Eurostat and OECD, and we're doing manual work to bring data in from other data sources. And this is where we would like for you to get involved. If you have data that you would like to put into the database, let us know that. If you think you have data that would be a nice basis for a case study, we would very much like to highlight your case study on the website and put your data into the database. Right now, we're focused on Europe, but we've designed the data structure and format in a way that we can hopefully easily expand that globally. And there's a few kind of advanced functionality tools that we have in mind that we haven't done yet. So these would be things like distance to measures. So for example, how far is it from this location to the nearest daycare center or to the nearest medical clinic or the nearest grocery store? And then another kind of advanced function that we had in mind was extracting data for custom locations. So if you had a set of locations that you want data for, to provide you an easy tool to pull the data out for just your locations, which we think would make it easier for you to link your own data sets to what's in our database. Okay, I'm going to end with just a very short couple of words about tomorrow's webinar. So tomorrow we'll be talking about API data access. So this is using our API to access the data that I just showed you through the dashboard, but in an automated way. And this is a tool that's meant for web developers, programmers, data scientists, but I would encourage you to come even if you're not one of those people, because I think it will be useful for us to be thinking through together how these data sets can be brought into your websites, for example, or be analyzed by your students or your researchers in a more large-scale, effective, and automated way. So I'll go through that tool tomorrow. And for now, I'm going to stop and would be very interested to hear your questions and comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doug. So just to organize our discussions in this next half an hour, please, if you would like to ask a question, raise your hand. Use the raise hand function. We have a couple of questions here in the chat that I'm going to read, but it would be nice if you raise your hand and ask the questions directly. So the first question we have here, Doug, is if the final version will include filter functions in the data catalog. For example, an overview of all the topics which you provide data on.
This is a good question. So you're asking, will the filters that are available through the dashboard also be available through and visible through the data catalog? We haven't We haven't thought about doing that yet, although I do think it would be possible. Um, we've taken the simple route of just linking from the data catalog over to the dashboard so you can explore those filters. But I do think this is a good point. The cause of death data I showed kind of highlights where some of those filters have quite an array of different data sets that would be nice to see through the data catalog. Yeah, thanks for that suggestion. We'll think about that for the future and if that's feasible to implement. Thank you.
Actually, it was Marita just raised her hand, who asked the question. So perhaps you can complement, Marita, your question.
Yeah, I was more thinking about an overview to provide so on different topics so that you can, for example, see all, because you have very detailed data sets, which are really cool, but I saw that it's 630. So I don't even know which keywords to put to like really get an overview, also to get an overview on, for example, maybe 50 data sets on this are all on fertility. And then like I can see filter according to fertility and just see the kind of data sets that you provide. Something like this I'm imagining, because right now it was a bit difficult for me to navigate like if it fits my specific needs.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay. Yeah, thank you for that. I understand. Yes, we are working right now at the moment actually to categorize so that when you come to that data catalog, you have sort of a hierarchical tree of categories that allows you to select different categories and then see what's available within those categories. I think this is more what you had in mind, so that it's yeah. Yeah, we very much acknowledge that it's quite a thing to be presented with 700 data sets that you just scroll forever. So as we've kind of built it up, that's become more of an issue. And yeah, we're thinking of categorizing in a way, but this requires us to then go through and effectively categorize all of those, and a lot of them end up in multiple categories. So, but yeah, we're working on that at the moment. Yeah, thank you. It's a really good point.
The continuing with filters, is there a list of regions available? Like if I want to start, like I'm from Brandenburg in Germany, and I want to explore which kind of data in Brandenburg you have for Brandenburg that you have, how would I start the search?
So I think if you wanted to just focus on a single set of locations, most or almost all of the data that we have, they would not have a keyword associated with your location because they're European or global data sets. So I think the most effective way at the moment to do that would be to, rather than use the data catalog, search through the dashboard so that when you're pulling data sets up, you're seeing on the map if there's data available for your locations. I think this would be the most effective way to quickly see the coverage of each data set as you kind of browse through. Yeah, I would need to think about if it would be possible, given these global and European-wide data sets, to be able to search by location. I'll make a note of that and see if we can, if this is possible.
And here there's also a very interesting question, which is specifically on France and its overseas regions. Like if you want to see France and the overseas regions and compare inequalities in these regions, is it possible?
This is a great question. For any mapping project, the French overseas regions are always a challenge because they're all mapped as France. So when you click on France, it's a global extent. Because this just depends on the individual data set. So if an individual data set is disaggregated by those individual overseas regions, then we would be mapping it that way. But if it's a national data set, it would be getting applied to all of those French overseas regions at the same time as France. So we're just dependent on the data providers that we're integrating here and how they've kind of broken down the data sets. But for the finest geographic levels, I think you would be able to look at different overseas territories separately, but not for the more aggregate data sources.
But at the moment, just to clarify, at the moment, if I'm interested only in France and occasionally in the overseas region, I can get a map on that in the tool.
It will just depend on the data set. Yeah, it is possible in the tool, but it'll just depend on the individual data set if it's been broken down in that way.
All right. Okay, then the next question is about data on migration. Do you have / plan to have data on, for example, asylum or refugee topics?
There are definitely data on migration already in the database from both Eurostat and OECD. And so the answer is definitely yes. There are some data sets in there on flows of refugees and other sort of displacement variables, but those are more limited, usually to 1 year or one specific context. So yeah, we're very much interested in having migration-related data sets in the database, and there's several in there already.
Perhaps you can invite once again the colleagues to I'll send an email after tomorrow with the links to the recordings of these sessions. And then yesterday, Professor Melinda Mills, she explains what exactly are the contents that are covered at the Mapineq link. For the moment, there's lots of potential to cover other topics, but there are 4 reports that came before the tool was launched with details about everything that is in there. So we're going to send all the links for you to check this in detail. Doug, we have another question here. If you could explain a bit more on what is in the legends. Perhaps you can go back to your slides and show like a map and what is in there.
Yep, sure, no problem. Let me just share my screen again. I just I'll quickly come back to this question about migration data while I bring this up. If you have data on migration that you think would be good to put into the dashboard, we would be very much interested in integrating your data and even writing case study to kind of highlight interesting data relationships that you might already have. I'm guessing that this question is about the bivariate plot, so I'm going to bring one of those up, but if I'm wrong in that assumption, go ahead and just turn your microphone on and let me know specifically what you're looking for. So I'm just going to bring up the same example that I showed at the end. Okay, so I've brought back up the example looking at internet speed and how it relates to youth unemployment rates at the NUTS 2 level. And so the question about the legend. So I think this is a common question, and I'm glad you asked it so we can spend a little bit of time on it. These bivariate maps, you need to think about it a bit to understand what the different color combinations are showing. And what we've done is try to make the legend interactive so that you can hover over different items in the legend and you'll see that it's telling you up above the legend the values that these different colors represent. So the easiest, the one that I mentioned already, red is in this case showing us internet speeds that are high values, so faster internet speeds. But at the same time, that youth unemployment is low. So the red is symbolizing 2 variables at once. It's high internet speeds, low youth unemployment. Whereas blue is the opposite. It's high youth unemployment and slow internet speeds. And these other boxes, so for example, if we go to this box, the dark color, this is locations that have both fast internet speeds and high youth unemployment. whereas these gray regions have low for both variables. So these bivariate maps, where we're looking at two variables at the same time, the colors are signifying values of both variables together. And that's why you get a two-dimensional legend like this. We've tried to make it interactive so that you can hover over these and see what the different values represent. Does this answer your question, or did you have another angle that you were particularly interested in?
Yeah, sorry again for me. I I meant something different, but I was more interested in where we can see how the variables are measured. But I think it was in the previous example where it was. I think it was death by region, but not what kind of. I think you looked at dementia, fatalities, and I wasn't sure what the what the data points were, but
Yeah. So I think I can just give you a quick answer to that one. So the idea here would be, I think what you're looking for is metadata. So you're wanting to know a bit more about how the source of that data has measured those different indicators. And this is something that we have this in the database at the moment, but I don't think we're doing a great job of communicating it to the dashboard yet. The idea would be that we're linking you back to the original metadata that we're getting from the data provider so that you can see the details about where those indicators are coming from. And so this would then explain to you how those causes of death are coded and where that information is coming from. The challenge with that is that the metadata are different for different providers, and so we're working to harmonize that a bit. But that's our challenge there. But the solution, I think, would be to refer you to the metadata of the original data provider for that.
yeah, okay, no problem. Thank you.
Doug, taking the chance that you have the tool opened, is it possible to download the image of the map I create?
Yes, it is possible. Actually, let me just quickly show this one predictor on the map. So there is this icon in the top left, save map as image. So if you click that, it'll download for you a screenshot of just the map area itself and save it as a PNG on your computer that you could use in slides or reports.
And I need to zoom in and out to have exactly what I need, or is it a standard configuration that we get?
No, you'll need to zoom in and out to get the region that you want on the map. So it's going to save what is currently being displayed.
That's nice. There's another question here in the chat. And what year does your data set go back to? How long backward do you want to reach?
We have tried not to put a limit, and we're just kind of ingesting data for whatever years are available, and that goes backwards, but also into the future in some cases where, for example, fertility rates are being projected into the future. We're including all of those. So I think this is just a limitation of the original data providers and for which years they're providing these individual indicators.
All right, I don't see any questions coming in the chat anymore. If someone would like to ask some questions, take your chance. Otherwise, I can continue asking asking questions. And the question that I have in mind is, if I'm interested in year comparisons of indicators, are the, like, for example, in the data catalog, are these is the same indicator for different years comparable from the same data source? I'm assuming it's comparable, right?
So from the same, The same indicator for different years is your question.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I know I'm saying this a lot, but it'll depend on the individual data source. So for example, some indicators that have been measured at multiple years have been mapped to different versions of the NUTS administrative boundaries. And so we are just mapping them to the version of the NUTS boundaries for those individual years. So you would need to be careful if you're looking through time to understand which version of those NUTS boundaries have been used for those indicators, because big changes in those boundaries could cause you some problems looking through time. And this, I think, comes back to Marita's question about the metadata, so that it's easy for you to find the full kind of report on each of these variables, which is available from Eurostat. And so, yeah, you would need to refer back to how those have been measured and mapped.
Okay, we have another question, and it's if we have ideas about data sets to be integrated, how should we reach out to contact?
Yeah, great. If you're interested, you can find our contact through the mapineq.org website that I'm showing you right now. You can also find contact information from the project website at mapineq.eu. And I imagine that Daniela would also be happy to connect you with us. So yeah, just reach out to us via email, and we can set up a discussion about data integrations that you would be interested in working on, and we would love to work together to do that. Thank you.
And I'm assuming the same is valid if I have a project where I collect some data and could have a story about it, and we can play with indicators. You're also interested in that or not?
So we would be really interested in collaborating on writing some of these case studies. So if you have a project where you've collected your own data and then you're integrating some Mapineq data, we would be very much interested in highlighting your work as one of the case studies on our website. If you're doing a project that's producing data that you would like to put into our database so that other people can then reuse that data, we would also like to work together on that.
Doug, we have another question about the bivariate map. And how
Okay.
how can you see what qualifies as high, medium, or low?
So in the legend and color coding.
Yeah.
This is a good question. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to give you a satisfying answer to that. So that's being determined on the fly in the background of the dashboard, just to determine the colors to put onto the map. And I'm not sure that we're showing those bins anywhere through the dashboard. Of course, this only affects the colors on the map. It doesn't affect the underlying data itself. So I guess, let me see if I can just quickly pull up an example of this so I can show you. Sorry. So if I pull up this bivariate map at the country level, your question is, what are these color bins? Really, the only way that you're going to be able to see the actual individual values at the moment would be by looking at them in the scatter plot. So you can see, you can get an idea for how those bins are calculated by seeing the values in the scatter plot compared to how they've been mapped on the map. But we're not providing those individual bin values directly. Yeah, so I think comparing the color to the scatter plot in the current dashboard would be the easiest way to do that.
All right. I think we have answered to all the questions. Oh, now that's coming a new question. Is it based on quantiles?
I don't know the answer to that. I would have to talk to our web developer and how they've been that. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
This would be interesting to put a note on this legend, if possible. Can one select or deselect regions and countries? Is another kind.
You mean to exclude a country from the map?
Yes.
No. So currently it's just displaying to you all the data that are available for the indicator that you've selected.
But if you want to zoom in one specific country, you can do
You can
that.
you can zoom, yeah. So you could zoom in to the region you're interested in, but you wouldn't be able to, remove a country from the scatter plot and map altogether. It's just showing you all the data that are available for that indicator.
All right. Okay, now I don't see any more question coming. Last minute for you to answer to questions, to ask questions. And if you don't have more questions, thank you so much for joining us today. And please don't miss the session tomorrow when Douglas will explain everything about the API. He already introduced you the main topics that he's going to talk about. So hope to see you tomorrow. And thanks for coming. Bye bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.